If your photography services feel vague, even to you, this video is going to help, because a clear offer is the foundation of everything. Pricing, selling, client communication, workflow, all of it gets harder when you're not totally sure what you're offering, and all of it gets easier when you are. Today we're building something clear and simple. Here's something that doesn't get said enough. A lot of photography business problems aren't really pricing problems. They're not marketing problems. They're not sales problems. They're offer problems. The offer, meaning kunden sätter in dig så anstör ett servicete, meaning what you're selling, who it's for, and what it includes, is the foundation everything else sits on. And when the offer is vague, everything built on top of it wobbles. Let me describe something that might sound familiar. A potential client reaches out. They ask about pricing. You're not totally sure what to say because it depends on so many things. How long the session is, how many photos they want, what kind of shoot it is, whether they want digital files or prints, whether they need a specific location. So you ask a bunch of clarifying questions. They answer. You try to put together a quote. It takes way longer than it should. You're not confident in what you send. They come back with more questions. You go back and forth a few more times. The whole thing feels exhausting. And by the time they actually book, if they do, you're already a little tired. That's not a sales problem. That's an offer problem. When your offer is clear, that entire exchange compresses. You know what you're selling. You know what it costs. You know what's included. You can communicate it confidently in a few sentences. That clarity saves time, reduces anxiety, and makes you look more professional all at once. So why do so many photographers have vague offers? The main reason is that they're trying to be flexible for every possible client. They want to accommodate every budget, every preference, every situation, every timeline. That impulse comes from a good place. You want to be helpful. You want to make it work for people. You don't want to lose a potential booking because your packages don't quite fit. But what that creates is a business that has no defined shape. And a business with no defined shape is exhausting to run. Because every single client interaction requires you to invent the terms from scratch. Every inquiry is a new puzzle. Every quote is a custom production. There's no rhythm, no repetition, no confidence that comes from doing the same thing consistently. There's just constant improvisation. And improvisation at scale is unsustainable. Let me add something here that I think is worth naming. Vague offers also make it harder to get better. When every session is different, it's hard to know what to improve. You can't refine a process you haven't defined. You can't get faster at something you do differently every time. You can't build confidence around a service that changes shape for every client. Definition allows refinement, and refinement is how you get better over time without starting from zero every time. Now here's another layer to this. Vague offers create vague marketing. If you're not totally clear on what you're selling, your website is probably vague. Your social media is probably vague. Your inquiries are probably coming from people who aren't quite sure what they're asking about, because you haven't told them clearly. When the offer is specific, the marketing gets specific, and specific marketing attracts specific clients, the right ones. Let me pause here. Have you ever lost time trying to custom quote something that should have been a simple answer? Comment below, because this is where most photographers are quietly bleeding energy. Not in the big obvious places, in the dozens of small interactions that should be simple but aren't, because the offer hasn't been defined. Now here's what I want you to take away from this section. Defining your offer is not about limiting yourself. It's about creating a starting point. Something that exists, something that has a shape, something you can communicate in 30 seconds. You can still make exceptions. You can still have conversations. You can still work with people whose situations don't perfectly fit the mold. But you start from something defined, not from nothing. And starting from something defined changes how every conversation feels. In the next section, we're going to build that something. A simple, clear first offer you can actually use. Building a clear offer doesn't mean you can never customize. It means you have a defined starting point, Something concrete that you can communicate quickly and confidently. Something that exists before the client asks. A simple photography offer has 5 elements. Let's walk through each one. Element 1, what type of session it is. Not a vague description, a specific category. Family session, couple session, personal brand session, newborn session, headshot session, whatever your focus is. This immediately tells the right people this is for them, and it tells the wrong people to keep looking. Both of those outcomes are good. A lot of photographers are afraid to be specific because they worry they'll exclude potential clients. But specificity attracts, vagueness repels. When someone reads your offer and thinks that is exactly what I'm looking for, that's the result of specificity. When someone reads your offer and thinks I'm not sure if this is what I need, that's the result of vagueness. Element 2, the duration. How long is the session? Be specific. 60 minutes, 90 minutes, 2 hours. Duration sets expectations on both sides. It helps the client understand what they're committing to, and it helps you protect your time. When the session length is defined, you're not in the position of a session running an extra hour because nothing was ever established. You showed up for 90 minutes, you delivered 90 minutes, that's the container. Element 3, what the client receives. Not a vague promise of beautiful photos, a concrete deliverable, a minimum number of edited digital images, a gallery delivered via a specific platform within a specific time frame. Print credits if that's part of your model. Whatever the specific deliverable is, say it clearly. These specifics make your offer feel professional. They reduce the "what do I actually get" question before it's asked, and they protect you from scope creep. When the deliverable is defined, there's no ambiguity about what you owe the client, and there's no ambiguity about when you're done. Element 4, the investment, the price. Stated clearly, not starting at with a long list of variables, not it depends with no anchor point, a clear number for the defined session. This is where the pricing work from the last 2 videos connects directly. When your pricing is built on a real foundation, stating it clearly becomes much easier because you know why it's what it is, you're not guessing, you're not hoping it sounds reasonable. You know it makes sense, and that knowledge makes a real difference in how you communicate it. Element 5, who it's for. This one you might not always state explicitly on your website, but you need to understand it internally. Who benefits most from this session? Who is it designed for? When you know that, your whole communication sharpens. Your website speaks to a specific person. Your inquiry responses feel relevant. Your social media attracts the right audience. When you're writing for everyone, you reach no one. When you're writing for someone specific, you reach exactly the people you want. Now let's talk about how many offers you need, because some photographers swing in the opposite direction. Instead of one vague catch-all, they create 10 different packages. A mini session, a full session, a half day, a full day, an elopement package, a maternity package, a newborn package, a family package, a headshot package. And suddenly, the website looks like a menu at a diner that hasn't been updated since 1987. Too many options create confusion, for you and for the client. If you're just starting out, 1 to 3 clearly defined offers is enough. One core offer that represents what you do most. Maybe one variation above and one below in terms of scope. That's it. You can add more later, but start simple. Simple is manageable. Simple is communicable. Simple scales. Let me do the pause and reframe here. You might be thinking, but what if a client wants something different? What if they want more photos, or a longer session, or something I don't have listed? That's fine. You can have a simple structure for add-ons, but you start from a defined core offer. The conversation shifts from, let me figure out what you want and build something from scratch, to here's what I offer. Let's see if this fits, or if we need to adjust anything. That's a much more confident starting position, and it signals to the client that you know what you're doing, even if you're still building that confidence internally. In the final section, we're going to talk about how to communicate your offer clearly, and what makes the difference between a description that lands and one that creates more questions than it answers. You've built the offer. Now you need to be able to talk about it. Not in a salesy way, not in an over-explained way, in a clear, confident, human way. Here's something that's worth understanding about how clients process information. They are not reading your website the way you wrote it. They're scanning, they're looking for answers to 3 specific questions. Is this what I'm looking for? What do I get? What does it cost? If they can't find clear answers to those 3 questions quickly, they leave. Or they send you an inquiry that's basically just those 3 questions typed out. Your offer copy, whether it's on your website or in an email or in a direct message, should answer those 3 questions immediately. Let's talk about how to structure a simple offer description. Start with what the session is and who it's for. A 90-minute family session designed for families with kids of any age who want relaxed, real photos that actually look like them. That one sentence tells them what it is and whether it's for them. Then describe what they receive. You'll receive a minimum of 40 edited digital images delivered to a private online gallery within 2 weeks. Concrete, specific, no ambiguity. Then state the investment. The investment for this session is X, not the prices, not this costs, the investment. That framing isn't manipulative, it's just more accurate. Because the client is investing in something, and you're investing your time and skill, it's a two-way exchange. Then stop. Don't fill the space with justifications. Don't add 6 paragraphs about your editing philosophy. Don't list every camera you own. State the offer clearly and let it breathe. Now let's talk about what makes an offer description fall flat. The most common problem is leading with you instead of the client. I have been photographing families for 5 years. I believe every family deserves beautiful photos. I use natural light and candid moments to capture the real you. That's all about you. The client is reading that thinking, but what do I get and what does it cost? Lead with the outcome for the client, not your credentials or your philosophy. Your credentials can live somewhere else on the page. The offer description should be almost entirely about what the client walks away with. Another common problem is vague language. Beautiful photos, timeless memories, stunning images. Those words mean nothing. Every photographer says them. Specific language is what differentiates. 40 or more edited images, delivered within 2 weeks, 90 minutes. Private gallery. Specific. Concrete. Real. Another common problem is apologetic pricing. Rates starting from just X. Affordable sessions available. Budget-friendly options for every family. That language signals that you're not confident in your pricing. And if you're not confident in it, why would the client be? State your rate without qualifiers. The investment is X. That's it. Now let me do the reflective beat here. Think about how you currently describe your services, either on your website or in inquiry responses. Read it like a potential client would. Can they tell in 30 seconds what they'd get and what it costs? Or do they have to dig? Or ask? Or piece it together from multiple pages? If the answer is they have to work for it, that's the gap. Not your photography, not your talent, your communication. And communication is something you can fix relatively quickly once you know what to fix. This is one of those areas where an outside perspective is genuinely useful, because you've read your own website so many times that you can no longer see what's confusing. You fill in the gaps automatically because you know what you meant. The client doesn't know what you meant, they only know what you wrote. Working with someone who can look at your offer and your communication and tell you what a client actually sees, that's where things get clearer fast. Not because you aren't capable of figuring it out yourself, because the outside perspective sees what you can't. If you're at the stage where you want that kind of direct, specific support on your offer, your pricing, your communication, the practical building blocks of your business, the 5-lesson mentoring plan is designed exactly for that. We work through your actual situation, not a hypothetical, yours. You can find all the details at savvyshutterbug.com. Let's close this cleanly. A clear offer makes everything downstream easier. Pricing conversations, sales conversations, client communication, workflow. It all gets smoother when you start from clarity. And clarity starts with defining what you're actually selling. Not after you feel ready, not after you have more experience. Now, with what you have, in its simplest form. You refine it as you go, but you start with something real. Build the offer, define it clearly, communicate it with confidence, and watch how much easier everything else becomes. Subscribe if you're following this series and next iwanandao tawasir a teacher into you. Next week, we're wrapping April with the big picture question. What does a sustainable photography business actually look like? Not the aspirational version. The real one. I'll see you then. 4.5.